Well, excited to be here with all of you. Thanks everyone for being here today and for everyone for putting on a great event. As we sort of talk about building really business cases and business value for community inside of great companies, one thing we thought would be really interesting is to have sort of different phases of the organizational chart. We have a CEO and founder, we have a vice president, we have a senior manager person doing a lot of the work on the ground, many hats. So maybe we could just first start, Jason, with you, and then Veronica. Tell us a little bit just quickly about when did your company start sort of building community in? Is it from the beginning? Is it something you bolted on later? When did it begin for you all at Ironclad?
Yeah, so we started Ironclad in 2014, and I think we kind of stumbled into community, frankly, and realized its power after actually having a little community. We did it accidentally because the first goal was just to have our first customers be folks that we could walk to so that we could get product feedback. And we realized, hey, we've got a bunch of people that love our product, that are interested in what other people are doing with their careers and more broadly in the industry. Why don't we get them together in person? And our office is walkable from everyone's office. So that some of those first couple events really gave us the confidence to invest further in it.
Great, so 5 years
Yeah,
since
5
the
years.
beginning. Yeah, Veronica?
Hi, everyone. It's nice to be here with you. So community has always been at the center of a lot that we have done at Lyft. You may remember, if you did use Lyft 7 years ago when we launched, that there were pink mustaches on the cars and fist bumps, and you were encouraged to sit in the front seat to really get to know your driver and build community. We were just talking about that even every city we launched with multiple community managers for that city. And oftentimes we would launch with a local nonprofit and encourage our driver community volunteer and really engage with that nonprofit on the ground. So it's been a really huge piece of who we are and driving our mission for the communities that we operate in. We've never seen ourselves as just a tech company. You know, we know that we are real people who are connecting millions of people in cars and real life experiences every day. And I think fast forward today, you know, in our public offering document, we doubled down on that commitment. And we said that we are giving 50 million or 1% of our profits, whichever is greater, to the communities in which we operate.
Elizabeth?
I think, you know, a lot of people have used Slack as a tool for community since Slack came out, but Slack's actual in real life community really only started 5 months ago. So we're very early on. It was something that kind of had organically developed a lot without us, and we realized that this was the moment to sort of start to give some forum and some structure and some support to those organic communities that we're already developing.
So we just heard Mata from Branch talk about how their community drives $5 million in annual ARR into the business, which is pretty remarkable. A, that it does that much, and two, that they're so rigorous about tracking it. I wonder, Elizabeth, what ROI metrics matter at Slack? I know it's early, but like, you correlate the value of the community to the business, how and what are the things that drive that towards a successful outcome for Slack?
Well, I think one of the things that's really unique about Slack is that we're really creating a new way of working and a new way of collaborating. And so for us, one of the things that's really important is this adoption of Slack as more than just a tool to chat with. And so one of the things that we're looking at in terms of ROI of the community is, are community members more likely to use apps and bring in workflows within Slack than folks that are not community members? A lot of it is going to be looking at platform usage and looking at those metrics as a measure of success. It is super early on, so we're just sort of starting to make those connections and see if that's the right thing to look at. But you know, I worked at Branch, and so as we set that program up at Branch, there's a lot of those components that eventually I'd like to roll in to the programs at Slack, but right now it really is about that usage of the platform, and are you coming back and using tools within it?
And Veronica, as you said, Lyft's been doing community since the beginning. It almost seems so long ago that like the drivers used to try to kind of awkwardly fist bump you in the back, and it's like, sorry, I'm on a call, I can't fist bump, I can't multitask. So I think it was a good change to remove it. But what is the key community KPI today, 2019, 2020? Like, what matters in terms of community from a metric standpoint?
Sure. So we know that, I mean, we all know this because you all are here, that people decide where they're spending dollars based on more and more if that company and that product aligns with their values. So we've always seen that. We also know that our employees choose Lyft and stay at Lyft because they feel like a huge draw to our mission and our vision, our values. Over 95% of employees choose Lyft and stay at Lyft because of that. For my business specifically, I'm building our business for nonprofits and social services. So I am firmly focused on connecting low-income communities and vulnerable communities with rides that really change their lives. And they're rides that have to be paid for by a third party. So my metric is strict revenue, and if I'm building a business that's bringing in revenue that's sustainable and can grow over time.
Jason, you all have 3 different types of IRL event programs: rooftop law school, community dinners, executive roundtables, user events as well. So can you just talk about how you differentiate the value with each of those different programs, or how you if you track them the same way or differently?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're still trying to figure out exactly the right way to track this. Like I said earlier, we kind of stumbled into community, and it's been this incredible asset for our business. Some of the things we're doing is we're starting to track pipeline that's created after a community event. So just this year, we've had $8 million in pipeline that's been created after someone attends a community event, which is just incredible. We're starting to track of revenue that we close, how much of that is touched by the community. So 50% of our revenue is touched by the community. And some of these early metrics are just incredibly promising if you think about the normal marketing funnel. But that's some of the early results we're seeing.
And when you say, just to get a little bit of detail on that, the 8 million revenue, is that like services revenue? Is that recurring revenue? Is that just could be any and all different forms of revenue, or?
Yeah, so for us, we're enterprise B2B SaaS company, digital contracting platform, basically helps your legal team collaborate with the other areas of the business to make contracts. And for us, almost all of our revenue is software ARR.
Yeah, and I think that for those, not everyone here is in a technology company, but as we think about SaaS recurring revenue, depending on who values it or how they value it, that could be valued at, for every dollar on a valuation or something, could be 5x, could be 10, could be 20x, depending on, how frothy maybe the market is. But at least for me, as I hear that, you might say, oh, 8 million revenue, wow, that's incredible. But actually, it could be, the value that brings to the company is exponentially more than $8 million in revenue, if I understand. Is that how you all look at it, or?
Yeah, I mean, ARR is this magical thing that we seem to have gotten in Silicon Valley. Yeah. But yeah, one of those dollars, and we have very low churn rates, so one of those dollars is really much more valuable than just that single dollar.
Veronica, you have this Wheels for All program. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that, and you have a very specific revenue target that you pull out of the community as well.
Sure. So Wheels for All is our grants program to provide donated and discounted transportation for communities in need. And so you will see this play out in a lot of different initiatives that we have. You may be familiar with our Roundup and Donate program. If you go to our main menu and you select Donate, you can choose a charity to support, and it will round up your Lyft ride to the nearest dollar. Passengers have now donated over $15 million to nonprofits, everything from supporting and protecting LGBT rights to preserving public parks. And our most recent organization that we added is an organization called Raíces, and they are located in Texas. Yay. They have the nation's largest legal team to support immigrants who are facing deportation hearings. So the money that is now raised from passengers through Roundup and Donate will support in large part, rides for immigrants in needs to and from their hearings.
And Elizabeth, probably, you mentioned this sort of, it's early days for Slack on the community. It's interesting that the community was just really started this year. I mean, it's 2019. Lyft started their community a decade ago, almost. Do you have any sense of why the company has really started now to like take note and really invest in it? Is there something about 2019, the company's just gone public, but I assume it's not related to that. Maybe it is, I don't know, but is there anything?
I got hired in 2018, so hopefully
okay,
it
that's
wasn't.
totally.
I think that there's a couple of things. So we have a really great research and analytics team, and one of the things that we did was we went out and asked our users and our developers and our admins, what would make your life using Slack better? And a response was, I want to know other people that are using Slack really well. I want to meet other developers that are building on Slack. We're like, well, there's a lot of Slack communities that you can use for that. They're like, no, I want to meet them. I want to show up in person and talk to them and be like, this thing that I'm doing is hard. How did you solve it? And so a lot of the impetus for the community came through the discovery, through that research, that this is what people wanted. And I think that the research just hadn't been done before, and it was kind of assumed that there was enough resources out there. But we like to listen when people ask us for things, and so that was really, I think, what caused it.
Yeah, and you've gone from, if I was on your website recently, 0 to more than 50 communities.
52 today.
52 communities in a very short period of time. One thing I love that Elizabeth does, if you follow her on LinkedIn, or if she'll connect with you, which she, you have to be nice to her today, and maybe she will. But she will feature these leaders, these community advocates for Slack, and she does these posts about them, and it's really thoughtful, and it's a simple thing that you probably take 20 minutes or 10 minutes creating an asset and posting it on LinkedIn, but it's, you see people kind of coming in and commenting and talking about it, and like, okay, does it scale to thousands of leaders? I don't know, maybe not, but it doesn't need to right now. You're at 52, so it's like, it scales to 60 or to 100 probably, and then, maybe you figure something else more scalable out.
Yeah, one of my favorite things about doing that, just a really quick anecdote. So the young man who runs the community in Jaipur in India, he messaged me, because we have all of our leaders on Slack, and so he messaged me and he said, thank you so much for posting that on LinkedIn. I woke up my entire family and made them come and look at it, and my dad said, you finally made it. And he was like, my mom was crying, and I was like, that's the sweetest thing I've ever heard. Well, now I have to do this forever, and so I'm looking at ways to automate it. So if you're building tools to automate LinkedIn posts, please come talk to me.
That's amazing. Jason, so we talk about community as part of the product, but as somebody that helped build the product, how have you built community into the core product offering for users?
Yeah, I think the core thing is just being a customer-obsessed company. It's amazing to me how much of good business is just timeless principles, and the evolution of the community is something we're all very excited about in 2019 in Silicon Valley, but being a customer-obsessed company is old-school business, and I think community is just a new way to continue to be customer-obsessed and help your user and your customer be successful. So to us, it's really like a holistic thing. It's, in the Ironclad product, you can share your legal templates with other people that you might actually want to just gift to the community as a resource. You can come to one of our events and level up your professional career. So I don't think it's any one aspect in the product. It's more of this holistic approach to being customer obsessed.
So I think as a community professional, if I'm listening to the CEO and the co-founder talk about how important community is to them, that's sort of like my dream scenario. And at Lyft, it's like that, and maybe at Slack, it's like that, a few companies. But a lot of companies, I don't know about most, but a lot of companies, that's not the case. And so how would you recommend, if I'm somebody that really believes in this community, I see the potential with it, how do I sell that into my product team and to my CEO or VP, or how do I get that ball across the line?
It's a great question. I think it's changing rapidly among even my peer group of CEO friends. I see a lot more focus being paid to community. But I think for the quick step, figure out a metric. It may be an imperfect metric, but there's something you can track. Deals that close after someone attends a community event, or additional emails we were able to send out to the community. And start with something small and just build that on top of the foundation. It doesn't have to be perfect from the get-go.
Yeah. Veronica, how about at Lyft? How have you integrated community into the core product, and how do you think people can sell that upstream?
Yeah, building off of what Jason mentioned, I think it's integral to show a path to revenue. So one of our enterprise products that a lot of people don't know about is our concierge and dispatch product. And it was foundational for us to build our healthcare vertical, which allows an administrator to request a Lyft from their desktop or their mobile phone for somebody else. And what that means is that people who do not have access to the tech of calling a Lyft, or who don't have a credit card or don't have money on that credit card to support a pre-authorization, or don't have the language skills or don't have a smartphone, whatever the case may be, we can now access those communities and those low-income communities with that product. So for us, it was really proving there's a real sustainable revenue stream from a different business, and now let's take that product and use it to reach millions of other nonprofit and government constituents.
Yeah, I think it's so, and as we have talked about this, and as I've learned more about your programs, like to be able to walk in and say, look, our program has created $15 million in value for communities, and because we had this built into the product. I mean, it doesn't start there. It probably starts at 10,000, 100,000, and then 500,000. But to be able to very clearly drive to that metric, it's like, how could they ever cancel that program? You'd be crazy for anybody to ever cancel or to cut it, or to, you'd want to grow it, I would think.
Yeah, and I would add, I am a huge proponent of pilots and testing small pilots, and really convincing, whoever you need to convince that you need $5,000 or $10,000, or, with the United Way partnership we did, it was a couple $100,000 to prove we can create access at scale. And some of those pilots have grown into our largest social enterprise clients 2 years later.
Elizabeth is somebody that's done community at a number of different organizations. You've built it, you've managed it, you're building another one. Like, how do you think your message that you have been able to deliver to executives and people up the chain, what has worked for you to be able to get traction where maybe there weren't believers to begin with?
I think it's always important to be able to prove value back to revenue and look at ROI in that capacity. But when you're first getting started and you don't have the data to do that, it's very hard to be like, but just trust me, I promise. Like, we will drive revenue. And I think that one of the ways that you can convince your C-level folks is to bring them to an event, have them experience how much joy someone has, especially in a SaaS environment, about your product. Like, seeing that fire really brings home, like, this is valuable beyond something that we can put a number on, like you were saying before, with kind of like exponentially more value on the ARR. That experience and that word of mouth that someone is going to drive because they feel like they're part of Slack, or they're part of Branch, or they're part of SolidWorks, or any of the number of communities I've worked on, is really critical to driving that impact home. Because the numbers are important, but if you have one person that hates your product, and they can be worse than, and detrimental to your product. So seeing that beautiful experience happen and bringing people in to actually be there.
As we sort of wrap up, Veronica, I'd love to hear what your sort of the outlook of community at Lyft looks over the next few years, or if you can't think that far, maybe into next year or beyond that. Like, where do you see the community program at Lyft going? Is it getting bigger? Is it staying the same? Is it getting smaller? Like, where and in what ways?
Sure. Much bigger. So my ideal and dream state is that we will connect millions of people with rides when they need them that change their lives. And what I mean by that is access to opportunity, education, after-school programs, jobs, medical appointments. So we have started that work in earnest, but we need to reach millions of people to be able to, I think, be really proud of what we've done.
Jason, as the CEO, co-founder of this, really exploding product, well-funded product, lots of customers, where do you see over the next few years, like as you're looking at what you're trying to build and the people that have put tens of millions of dollars into your company, like what role does community play in Ironclad over the next couple of years?
Enormous. I mean, I'm so excited to be actually in this room. This is very energizing for me because I feel like we want to be one of the biggest companies investing in community in the Valley. And I think that the growth that's going to happen for community as a profession is just astounding to me. As a founder who loves to see things when they're small and see them get big, I feel like that's exactly what's going on with community right now. So we want to make a huge investment in this. We want to be the best company in the Valley in terms of community, and I think we certainly have some promising beginnings to that, but excited to invest over the next decade.
Great. Elizabeth, Veronica, Jason, thank you all for being here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.